It gives me great delight. The long time he and I worked together in the past, had a different municipality, and I thought so much of them there. I wanted to bring them to what I think is the best municipality in this county. So with all that said, Brandon, if you got anything you'd like to say?
Just want to tell you guys thank you for the opportunity to work here and look forward to it. So, thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome, Brandon. Thank you. Next up, we have a proclamation, and the proclamation will be read by Mr. Don Harvey. Proclamation, Women's History Month.
Thank you, Mayor. Proclamation, whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways, and whereas American women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of the life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And whereas American women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the nation, and whereas American women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation. And whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement. And whereas American women have served our country courageously in the military, and whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which created a more fair and just society for all. And whereas despite these contributions, the role of American women in history have been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. And now therefore, I, Richard E. Hines, Mayor of the town of Winterville, hereby designate March as Women's History Month, honoring the contribution and legacy of women. In witness whereof, I do set my hand and cause the seal of Winterville to be affixed this 13th day of March, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Next up, Stephen.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. We have received a rezoning request for what was titled Waterford Crossing. The applicant, Rachel Tyre with ENC Home Solutions. The location of this project is on Railroad Street at its intersection with Worthington Street and Vernon White Road. It's a 13.5 acre site that is currently zoned agricultural residential. Agricultural residential is somewhat of a placeholder to eventually become rezoned one day. The proposed zone is R6 conditional district. The conditional districts that the applicant has placed on this rezoning is that all lots will be single-family residential. All lots will have a minimum square footage of 7,000 square foot. All homes will have a minimum of 1,500 square foot, and that's heated square foot. The developments will consist of vinyl exterior siding on all homes with an elevations that have brick or stone accents on the fronts as well. All homes will have garages, and all front yards will be sodded. Town staff followed statutory requirements of placing signs on the lot, notifying adjacent property owners within 100 foot through mail for both the planning and zoning hearing and this public hearing, as well as placing 2 advertisements in the Daily Reflector. This is just to give a little bit of understanding where this property is located. This is Railroad Street from north to south here. On the northern boundary, you have Vernon White Road. And a little bit north of the property, or a little bit south of the property, you have Worthington Street as well. This is an aerial. This is just what the plat would look like over top of it, the rezoning plat. This is the submitted rezoning map. The current zoning of this site is agricultural residential. As you see around it, most of this light colored, kind of tannish on the board is agricultural residential. Beside it, you have R20 in the purple. To the south, you have R6 in the green. In the blue, R8. And then up top, you have some office and institutional as well as general business on Beacon Drive. The existing land use map shows vacant land at this site, so it's just currently farmed land. Mostly around it is single-family residential. The future land use plan designates this site as urban neighborhood. As you see, all of the kind of pinkish brownish area up there is urban neighborhood. The yellow is suburban neighborhood, and a little bit of pink that you see, or light pink, is neighborhood center, which is more of a commercial. The future land use character area, this is urban neighborhood again. So this is primarily suited for medium-sized lots with single-family detached residential. Occasionally smaller scale, context-sensitive patio homes or attached residential if it meets certain criteria. Generally, 3 to 8 dwellings per acre is what we're targeting for this site. Some small-scale services and restaurants or offices are encouraged at certain locations that have good access. Again, just to dive a little bit deeper into the character area, urban neighborhoods character area, somewhat higher density, predominantly single-family detached housing, with some attached housing, some small-scale commercial, retail, restaurants allowed at certain locations. One thing that we look at for rezonings is the density in the proposed zone. This is an R6, but again, one of the conditions is a 7,000 square foot lot. A 7,000 square foot lot would be roughly 6.22 acres per lot, and that's without taking out the road and things like that. Density of this project for the urban neighborhood is showing 3 to 8 per unit. So the potential zones for this is R12-5, R10, R8, R6, and multifamily residential. Again, the R before the number just represents residential, and the number represents the size of the lot. Again, we're coming back down to the uses. Small lot, single-family detached residential dominates, approximately 6,000 to 10,000 square foot, but duplexes and townhomes may be appropriate in certain locations, as well as some commercial in the appropriate location as well. Our land use goals are to strengthen and diversify the economy, to help activate downtown, as well as connectivity and mobility. And that's something that I think that this project provides for the town as well. Economic development goals, this kind of comes back to activating downtown. When you have neighborhoods and residential in such close proximity to the downtown, not only will it help support your commercial in that area, but it will also help support older units that people are going to eventually move to help fix up in areas that may have some dilapidated housings as well. And to reinforce the town's identity as a family-friendly community. This is something very important to the town of Winterville, is welcoming new residents to the town. So one of our strategies is to support rezonings to residential uses in both the suburban residential and urban neighborhood areas as identified in the future land use plan. Downtown area, again, we're just looking at the primary goals of activating the downtown, helping to create connectivity and mobility in the downtown area. One of the strategies in the live, work, play downtown that we created, or the public created with this document, was to allow people to live near downtown Winterville and to encourage and allow more dense residential development within walking distance to the downtown. There is little open land in the downtown area. Infill development is always something that you desire to see. At the P&Z meeting, and I just want to give everybody on the council a heads up, the paper with the blue tab has a little bit more in-depth details on comments that we had through either letters or planning and zoning comments. This is really just kind of an overview. There were 13 Winterville residents who spoke in opposition at the planning and zoning rezoning hearing. All of them were from the Waterford neighborhood. The major topics of concern were stormwater and drainage, traffic concerns, concerns of how it may impact the quality of life in the surrounding area, as well as the property values, the desire to have larger lots adjacent to the neighborhood, concerns of the proposed density of a R6 zone, and potential noise concerns. With that, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended 5-1 denial of the rezoning at the January 17th, 2023 meeting. We did receive one letter of support. This was from Local Oak Brewery, downtown Winterville. They essentially stated that this type of development will help Winterville grow in the right way, that they believe it'll create considerable boon to our downtown. Our staff's recommendation is that we find this request to be reasonable and in the public interest, as the proposed zoning district is compatible with the surrounding land uses and the future land use plan. Staff recommends approval of the request to rezone the 13.5 acres from agricultural residential to R6 conditional district, as it is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. We are at the final step of the rezoning process tonight, where we are holding a public hearing for this rezoning request. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to address.
Anybody on the council have any questions for Stephen before we start the public hearing? Anybody? Okay.
We do have the applicant here as well who would like to speak on the proposed rezoning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. With that being said, I declare that the public hearing is now open. Anyone that would like to speak in favor of this, will you please step to the podium, state your name and your address. In favor. This is in favor now. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Homer Tyer. I'm married to the lovely applicant. We're battling some allergies, so I'm going to get up here and do the speaking tonight. I had a couple of slides I just wanted to show real quick.
Homer, can you state your address for it?
Yes, my name is Homer Tyer. My address is 948 Augusta Lane, Greenville, North Carolina, 27858.
Thank you.
So first and foremost, Mayor, Council, the P&Z meeting was very eye-opening. We got a chance to get feedback from the public, primarily the residents of Waterford, and we took that information and the feedback to heart. First and foremost, we have renamed this project. We are now referring to it as Traymore, no longer the crossing at Waterford. There were some residents who did not care for the name, and we had no issue with changing that. If you look at the slides here on the screen, I want to show just a couple of brief things. This was the original plan we submitted to the town of Winterville. and we worked in hand with Mr. Brian Jones, who's no longer with you guys, unfortunately. And we originally wanted to do 92 luxury loft, single-family attached dwellings. After working with the town and working diligently through the land use plan, we scrapped this plan. We scrapped it and we went back to the drawing board, and ultimately we came up with this plan. It shows 55 single-family dwellings. In talking with our engineers, this is all preliminary because we haven't had the chance to do further due diligence. We estimate it's going to be somewhere between 45, but no more than 55. This does show an R6, but I stress the word that Stephen used, conditional. We are putting a minimum 7,000 square feet on the lots, not the 6,000 square feet you normally see with R6. The other thing I want to bring to the town's attention is, I think this is overlooked by a lot of residents here, but there are actually 9 R6 lots and a recorded street already on record and filed that could be developed today. There are 5 residents adjacent to those R6 lots. Our intention is to bring those into the community and follow the same conditional rezoning on those lots when they're developed. That will provide street access as well on the south end here on the Worthington Street, as well as another entrance exit onto Railroad Street. This has been on record and on file since I want to say the 80s, before this neighborhood, before Waterford was even developed, before these residents even built. This is an artistic rendering. This has been updated since we were here last. Noise was a concern that was brought to our attention along with barriers. Our concern was double fencing, so you'll see here we have actually incorporated a 6-foot white vinyl privacy fence that will run the extent of Waterford. It will actually turn back here behind the Patrick residence. It will also run behind these residents here and down Vernon White Road. Of course, you've got your vegetative berm along the road, sidewalks, all leading down to Worthington Street and out onto Railroad Street. This is Pitt County, and this is R20 lots that also have R6 adjacent to them. I know density has been a concern, but if you look, we have Baywood and Cornerstone here in Winterville. Right across the street, you have South Hall and Shamrock, Bedford and Sheffield, Brook Valley, Yorkshire. This is not something uncommon in our area. Seeing this density beside each other fits the land use plan, but is also very common in the county. One point that was brought up in the last P&Z meeting too was also questions about, income, professionals. The average household income is $95,000 in Winterville. This is pulled from census data, and the median household income in Winterville is $80,000. We had a local lender actually pool homes $300,000 to $400,000, run exactly 6 different loan programs. On an average price of $350,000, the household income would have to be a minimum of $88,000 all the way up to $103,000, which falls directly in line with the average and median household income of the town of Winterville. These are professional people. This is not a housing project we're trying to construct. Traffic was also brought up as a concern. You'll see that all 3 streets are underperforming the North Carolina DOT annual average rate of traffic. We anticipate we inflated the average number to 10 trips per day per household. We're looking at, even if we do 55 homes, we're adding 550 trips per day spread amongst 3 streets. You'll see we have exit off Worthington, the 2 exits here off of Railroad that obviously disperse out to Worthington Street, further down Railroad, Beacon Drive, and on Vernon White. Lastly, I talked about fencing. We are trying to make sure this community represents us well, but also pleases the residents of Waterford. We're looking at doing a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence. Estimates we've got in so far run this fencing project somewhere around $100,000 when you factor in the roads and everything. Now, I know residents don't care about that, but we're prepared to make that investment because we want to ensure that they're protected and our community is protected. Right now, there's a ton of inconsistency when it comes to fencing. It's over 13, we counted somewhere around 13 different fencing styles in the adjacent property. We understand they want to see a consistent look. Drainage. This was the most eye-opening conversation we had because I would be honest with you guys, I was concerned maybe the property, there were some major issues we weren't aware of that hadn't been brought to our attention. These are the two main stormwater drainage tiles that run between the Waterford property and the Railroad Street farm we're looking to rezone. If you notice, this one here is approximately 75% blocked right now. This one here is open, but it has a negative grade to it. What we're proposing is take that main drain tile here and here. We intend to actually install a stormwater retention pond across our property. You'll see these arrows and blue lines. The water runs down these ditches to these drains, and then it runs down to our pond. Underground, man-made concrete tile to move that water more efficiently, and then hold it in our retention pond where it can be dispersed at a steady rate towards Swift Creek, which is back across Vernon White Road. Right now, it relies 100% on gravity and those ditches not being blocked, which is not perfect if you go out there and take a look at them. We actually think we're going to be able to help their situation. I understand they have concerns about water backing up, and I actually think we're going to be able to make their situation better and not exacerbate the problem at all. This is just showing the stormwater drain right now. There's a number of different, from pool water to gutters to you name it, being dumped into the ditch right now. It's probably no big deal. The last thing that was not on Mr. Stevens' report, but that was brought up, was restrictive covenants, HOA, and Architectural Control Committee. We actually went ahead and secured an attorney. We had restrictive covenants, HOA bylaws, and an Architectural Control Committee set up. All of this has been pre-drafted before rezoning was even allowed, before this project even goes forward. We went ahead and made that commitment. All of this is put in place. I feel like some of it, I was looking because I wanted to compare our Architectural Control Committee and our HOA bylaws. I wanted to compare them to Waterford's, but they don't have any. And I think, that would probably help some of the drainage issues if there was an HOA that could assist. Lastly, renderings. Folks have asked about what houses are going to be built. One thing in regards to the conditions I wanted to stress, we've made some modifications to the conditions that Stephen presented just a second ago. All the lots will be single-family residential. All the lots will be a minimum 7,000 square feet. All the homes will be a minimum of 2,000 total square feet, not 1,500, 2,000 total square feet. The development will consist of vinyl exterior siding on all homes, with some elevations consisting of a minimum 25% brick or stone on fronts. All homes will have garages, and the entire yards will be sodded, front, side, and back, to help with drainage, to help with erosion, to hopefully set the residents at Waterford at ease. And, we actually changed the name, so we had a new monument design done for the neighborhood. And some people wanted to see elevations. You can see square footage, bedrooms, baths, and just kind of flip through some of these. We have a handshake agreement with Mr. Will Kuhn, who's a local reputable builder here in the area. These are his plans to construct these homes. Last thing, and I'll cede my time. We're excited about this project for the town of Winterville because it has a 100% walk score. I can't explain to you guys how many customers, consumers, buyers we come in contact with today that want to be able to walk their child to school. They want to be able to ride their bicycle downtown. They want to be able to actually use the sidewalks to frequent, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's Chick-fil-A, an aquatic center, you name it. And we feel like this neighborhood provides all that. Yes, we were ambitious and originally wanted this to be a multifamily project, but in working with the town and trying to follow the land use plan that this council put together in 2019, I feel like we have a project that will well represent not only the residents of Waterford, but also the town of Winterville. Thank you guys for your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. If no one has any questions, we appreciate your time there. Anybody else would like to speak in favor of this? You need to step to the podium if you would like to speak.
Mayor,
Yeah.
do we have a time limit?
No,
We don't.
no,
Time.
don't.
good.
I'd like to make a motion to set one then. We've already did that.
Good evening. My name is Will Kuhn. I'm with Will Kuhn Homes. We have built in Winterville for a while. We built Barefoot Landing. We've also built Main Street Village, and we're currently building Brookfield. So you can get an idea of the kind of product we put out. Traymore are a lot like the houses we're going to be building, and just started a new subdivision in Ayden. It's called Cottages of Swift Creek. These houses are going to be priced from $341,900 to $420,000. These are not inexpensive, low-end houses. These houses will all be at least 3 bedrooms. Most of them, as you saw in the pictures, are 2-story, and they'll be either 2.5 to 3 bathrooms. They're all 2-car garages, and they will all have a bonus room. And like Homer was saying, the yards will be sodded to help with the drainage and to control the water problems. If you know or familiar with my construction, when we build something, we try to build it right. We try to make the customer happy. We try to make them proud of the home they have. We don't mess around with our construction. Whether it's the interior construction or the landscaping around the house, we try to make sure we flow the water away from the house and send it to the drains, wherever it's supposed to drain to. We put the topsoil and fill sand, whatever it has, to make sure that house water is drained away from it. I'm very particular about that. I'm also particular about homeowners associations. I won't build in a subdivision that doesn't have a homeowners association because I want the neighborhood to keep its standards high, and I want them to make sure the common areas are also kept high. This subdivision has that. That's why I'm working with Homer right now to go in there and build our houses. We will plan on putting a very nice product out there. These houses will be from 2,100 square feet. I'm sorry, I was wrong on the price point. These houses will be from $369,900 to $420,000. These will be attracting a nice neighborhood, a nice clientele group that hopefully will have disposable income to spend in the downtown area of Winterville. That's all I have to say unless there's any questions.
Anybody, questions? No questions? Thank you, Mr. Kuhn.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak in favor of this subdivision? Please step to the podium. Please state your name and address.
My name is Chad Starcher, 490 Main Street, Winterville. I just wanted to say that I think a project like this would be great for the town of Winterville. I think it would have a positive impact on the downtown area. I think this area is really starting to grow, and I think that would really help our downtown area. People are looking for houses just like this all over the county. I think Winterville is the perfect place for them to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in favor? Again, anyone else would like to speak in favor, please step to the podium. Okay, if not, anybody that would like to speak against this subdivision, please step to the podium. State your name and address.
My name is Richie Thomas. I live on 193 Foxcroft, and nobody in this room is against growth. We want to see growth. Everybody wants to see Winterville improve. We don't have a problem with that. But what we have a problem with is R6 compared to an R20. Now, I've been there for 21 years, and when I first moved to Winterville, it was hardly anything. So, like I said, everybody wants to see growth. We now have a problem with growth. But everybody knows that lived in Winterville, when W.H. Robinson School is open and you're trying to drop your kids off to school, it's going to be a mess. You can say what you want, 55 houses, it's going to be hard for people to get out to go to work in the morning. It's going to be hard for them to drop their kids off. Everybody's not going to walk their kids to school. Some people are going to drive and drop their kids off. And you know how long that line is first thing in the morning. Everybody knows that. The next thing my neighbor's going to talk about is the density. Like I said, the R20s. If you go and do a R20, you won't have a problem with anybody in this room. That's what we want, a R20. Because that's what we got, as an R20. The next thing we're going to talk about is the drainage issue, which is the biggest thing. Everybody knows Winterville floods like crazy. I work at the Dollar General up the street. And the whole street on Main Street, how many times has been tore up when it rains hard? Same thing in my neighborhood. I got off work one night late, trying to get home, actually flooded my car, trying to get into my neighborhood in Waterford, which is a nice neighborhood. But the water was so high that even when my wife get off at work, because we both work retail, she actually keeps rain boots in her car, and she had to try to walk through people's yard to get home at night. Now, who wants to do that? And the rest of my neighbors are going to speak to this. Thank you for your time.
Thomas?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Bill Chapman. Many of you may have known my parents when they lived in the Waterford subdivision. They were probably the third house there. Back then, it was a swamp. Okay, the Biggs brothers grew that up. They spent millions of dollars putting in drainage to try to develop that and cut into their profit margin, and they can tell you that personally. When my parents passed, I took their house over. That was about 12 years ago. I refurbished that house and then bought a house around the corner. Unfortunately, that backs up onto this development. It's a beautiful home, and I pay a lot of taxes on it. You all did a poll not too long ago that showed that we didn't have a deficiency of small lot homes. We have a deficiency of large lot homes. Okay, R6 is a small lot. Many people are going to talk about the water and drainage problems, and you can put as many retention ditches in there as you want. When it rains hard here, it's going to flood. And the drainage in this area, in this neighborhood, is terrible, mainly because it was always an estuary, a flooded area, and no matter what you do, it doesn't make a difference how many retention ponds that get stinky and algae-ridden, and if they're not taken care of, can become a real problem. So I, too, have come into my neighborhood and flooded out my car because I can't get to my house. So I now have to park my car outside the neighborhood and walk in with boots on when I'm on call in the middle of the night. Now, traffic and noise, I mean, you can't put 55 houses. And if you looked at that little plot he had there, that's an average of 2.5 houses per each of our backyards that line up with that. So I'm going to be staring at not the nice brick facade that they're going to put on, but the back vinyl side in the back of the house that's not going to be taken care of. It's going to be an eyesore for those of us in the neighborhood that live along that area. Our property values will markedly diminish. People move to Waterford because they want a nice, quiet neighborhood with big lots. The land use plan that you keep talking about, initially, if you look at those R6 lots that came before the land use plan. And Waterford came in and built up there. And so if you actually look at it, if you look at the borders, Vernon White, Railroad Drive, Mill Street, and Worthington, that all should be R20. Other than those cutouts to the R6s, it makes more sense. You know, use Railroad Drive if you want to go across the street where that other gray area was. Where if you want to put high-density housing in there, that's fine. But it puts a giant road, Railroad Drive, in between there. But it still doesn't address the traffic issues. Other developments that are R20, R6s, I find it laughable to compare this to the Cornerstone area. Cornerstone houses are fully brick homes. They're beautiful. I looked at that when I moved out of my house in the Chesapeake area to over here, but I didn't like the size of the lots. But they're Baywood, that's what it is. So that's not bad. That does not detract from the Baywood. This will detract from ours. You know, It also is, it's very interesting when developers come in and they give you this altruistic view of things and that they're going to build the most precious houses in the world. Once they build them, they've made their profit, they're gone. Okay, the homeowners association, yes, it may help, but homeowners associations fall apart. And if you don't have 100%, it's not a valid homeowners. So no one can really keep that going, and that also concerns me. We are all for the development of the land in this area. We all want Winterville to grow. I want more of my professional friends to move to Winterville, but they're not going to move here if we're putting in small lot, small homes. We need bigger lot homes. We need larger homes to attract the people working out of ECU Health Systems and some other professionals. So I really don't think that we should be doing this with R6. I think we should make it R20. It is commensurate with the property that right next to it. It will enhance our properties and enhance our neighborhood. If you do R6, it is going to detract from our neighborhoods, and it is going to denigrate the values of our properties. And I'll let other folks address other issues, but I thank you for your attention, and I hope you guys make the right decision.
What's your address, Mr.
Oh,
Chair?
I'm sorry. I'm on 209 Foxcroft Lane.
Oh.
I'm right in the dead center of that, and I have to look out on that whole property, which right now is beautiful. It won't be. I already did.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor
Good evening.
and members of the Town Council. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Jeff Greenberg. I live at 2216 Wolf Trap Road in Waterford with my wife and our 3 girls. My kids all went to W.H. Robinson. My wife's a teacher there now, and my girls now go to A.G. Cox and South Central High School. And the reason I want you guys to know that is we've been a resident of Winterville for 20 years. We love Winterville. This is home, and we want our home to be protected. We want our town to grow, flourish, and that's why we support everything that's Winterville local, whether it's businesses, W.H. Robinson, A.G. Cox, South Central. I'm here to cover the facts around the impact of this proposed development on the traffic area. And again, these are the facts, not estimated, but laid out by the official North Carolina DOT study of the area, traffic study, traffic count study, which the affected areas would be Railroad Street, Vernon White, as well as the connector and collector streets to include Mill and Worthington. The official NC DOT traffic count for Vernon White is already anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 trips a day. 10,000 trips a day, just for Vernon White. The official NCDOT traffic count for Railroad Street is already 500 to 2,000 trips a day. On Railroad Street, 2,000. If this proposed development as is went through with 55 houses spilling out onto Railroad Street per NCDOT standards of 10 trips per day per household, that would add an additional 550 trips per day to this area. The math of that and the impact of that increase would double the traffic counts on the before-mentioned collector and connector streets of Mill, Worthington, and Railroad. It would have a tremendous effect and a definitive impact on the traffic in this area. Now, I told you my wife is a teacher at W.H. Robinson. She's a kindergarten teacher. Part of her role is to, for all of you that send kids there, take the kids out at the end of the day and make sure they get in the right car, the right van for after school, or the right bus. She witnesses the traffic of W.H. Robinson 180 days a year. And she said that the amount of traffic generated twice a day by W.H. Robinson is substantial. Now keep in mind, those traffic volumes I mentioned, the 2,000 and the 10,000, do not include the traffic generated 180 days a year by W.H. Robinson Elementary. That would be additional traffic pressures on these small roads. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, I'm going to steal a line from one of my neighbors from the Planning and Zoning meeting. I grew up in public schools. My wife grew up in public schools. She teaches in public schools. Our kids are going to stay in public schools. And when we sat down to do the math in this with our public school education, none of it added up. And when it comes to the impact on traffic, just from the proposed development, the math does not add up to approving this development as is. So I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you for our opportunity to come speak to you tonight.
Hi, I'm Wayne Heiser. I live at 163 Lismore Drive. I also live at 216 Foxcroft. Why? Because I have a double lot. It's a corner lot. There also is a sewer, actually a storm sewer on that corner. Every time it rains hard, it backs up. Has nothing to do with all these other drainage problems, which are legitimate problems. But if you have a retention pond for that group, the storm sewer is already overworked because it backs up. In fact, my front yard was completely, when we had the big hurricane thing, my whole front yard, was underwater. Now, my backyard isn't underwater because I have a sump pump there, and I have 2 sump pumps under the house, which was stipulation I put in when I bought the house 8 years ago, okay? That problem, if my sump pump in my backyard breaks, other neighbors have problems because when the people developed, Eddie Biggs developed that neighborhood with his family owned the land and all that, he filled in that creek that was in between my house, and the Foxcroft house. That's filled in, but the sump pump exists there, and the house on the Lismore side of us has a stone, looks like a stone well behind to supposedly take that away, okay? So that is an issue. It really is. And that has nothing to do with the other drainage problems that people are going to be talking about that live on that side, okay? I want to address 2 issues that I didn't bring up at the last meeting because they're new. Because the developer that's taking care of this changed their plan. We heard all the positive things they changed. Great, okay, for them. But people were here before. Remember the fronts of all the houses were supposed to be all brick or stone? Now they're 25% because they have to get the cost somehow on putting this thing through. They were all brick in the front, 25%. Did you see the pictures? 25% is that little band of what, a foot on the bottom? That's not anything, okay? They also talked about it was a nice area for their kids to play in the yard, ride their bikes. Who wants to ride their bikes on Railroad Street? Let me tell you, who wants to leave their kids out on Railroad Street with the traffic? And the traffic numbers that was just mentioned, let me tell you, add, subtract, whatever the numbers are. The key thing is go there between 5:30 and 6 on either Vernon White or Mill Street because they both come into one single light and one single intersection. Oh yeah, it's got a yield lane, but nobody in this area seems to know how that yield lane works, where you keep going, okay? So what happens is, that traffic someday is backed up all the way to Mill Street. And on the other end, you got the idiots that don't know how to turn off of Vernon White going the other direction toward Fire Tower. It really ought to have a light there. Not that I want a light there, but people don't know how to make a left-hand turn there. They sit there and back up the traffic that way, and it's backed up the other direction. The traffic counts don't address any of that at all. Now we talk about property values, R6 versus R20. I have the highest property values and pay the highest taxes of anybody in Waterford. I know that because I got a double lot. And I've applied for 2 permits that expanded the property, and I'm paying for that. I'll never recoup the money as long as I live or any of my children if I ever had any. Because the property values are going down, as the houses get older. And he said, oh, the insurance guy I talked to today says, oh, yeah, but the cost of materials and the labor is going up, so therefore, we got to increase the price of your property. But yet, every 10 years when we get the property taxes reevaluated, some people's went down, some people's went up, depends, okay? But whether it goes up or down is irrelevant. CMA, comparative market analysis, makes a difference. And these R6 things are not going to do anything to the competitive market analysis of everybody in Waterford. Everybody. And, you can say what you want about that. It's kind of the way it is. Developments are going to come. I'm not against developing. If you want to put something in there and meet with the commercial things downtown, I'm not saying I want commercial there, but it would be better have a commercial development there with a couple stores, that people would go to. Maybe they would go. But the way it is now, meet halfway between. Have houses that are not R6, but whatever numbers are in between, R18 or R15. Maybe that would make more sense. Not that I want that. I would rather have R20. But man, I tell you, this don't make sense. It absolutely don't make sense. Did I forget anything?
Okay.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen and lady. My name is Claude Mero. I live at 2257 Wolf Trap Road. And I would like to put this project into perspective. I have one of the smaller homes that is 3,000 square feet. We have 5,000 square feet houses in our in the Waterford division. That's the size of a lot. This is absolutely incredible. Also, about the drainage, I live on the other side of the Waterford division, which is not affected. Well, they say it's not affected, but Wolf Trap gets flooded. I've seen cars break down in the middle of the intersection when there is a lot of rain. And you're talking about 2 feet of water at the intersection of Waterford and Wolf Trap Road, and this is not acceptable. We need to do drainage. We need to increase the road. We need to make the roads wider in order to accommodate such a project. We also need a light at the Vernon White and Altar Road. All these, we are going to be affected. Our property values is going to go down. And this is a wonderful place. We've been living there for 12 years, and we never had any problem. But now, this project is not a good project.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jean Sokolovsky. I live at 163 Lismore in Waterford. When we moved here 7-8 years ago, we looked at a lot of the developments that were brought up that are right on R6 and a lot of others that were, I will tell you, much more prestigious, with houses with much bigger lawns, much bigger yards, much bigger homes. We looked at a lot of them. We could have afforded to move somewhere else, but we chose Waterford. Why? Because of the community there. We wanted an area that was a good neighborhood, that we could walk in, that we felt safe in. Okay? I'm afraid if we have an additional development, that may disappear. We accept the drainage problems that we have on our lot. We knew about it when we bought that, but we don't want more drainage problems. And I'm sure the folks that live in the adjoining property don't want more drainage problems. That is an issue, and whether or not this goes through, something needs to be done about that drainage. I mean, it's a hazard. And honestly, I don't want to live near a retention pond that gets all nasty. And what about the mosquitoes and all of those other wonderful things? And don't forget the liability if someone drowns in the retention pond. I know you say you want to make sure that people can drive, or not have to drive, to walk or bike to downtown Winterville, okay? Well, no offense to downtown Winterville, but look at the businesses that are there, okay? So what are we going to have, our kids driving down to get a drink at the local bar? I mean, you know, are they going to walk, are they going to ride their bikes down there, or are they going to walk down to the bar? There's really no place for kids, if you're thinking about it, in downtown Winterville to do much of anything besides drink or whatever, okay? So that doesn't really hold a lot of weight there. And honestly, how many kids want to get out and drive? Or, walk and not drive? We see them driving around all neighborhoods in their golf carts, okay? The other thing I'm concerned about is looking at what's going on in the greater world across the United States. How many train derailments have we had in the last month and a half? There's a train track right there. I will tell you, if I were going to buy a house and put up that amount of money, I'm not sure if I want to live right that close to a train track. Not only the noise issue, because I really don't think, no matter how good they build those homes, you're not going to muffle the sound of that train coming. I hear it on Lismore. I've gotten used to it, but I'm sure it's really going to be loud in those small homes. So, not a good idea. If you want to put in R20 there, that would be great, but it's not a solution for us. And please don't think that us having a homeowners association in Waterford is the answer to our problems. We've lived in homeowner association homes, and we moved here and chose Waterford because it didn't have that. Okay. Once again, I implore you to consider this very carefully. I think it's an important decision that's going to affect the lives of every one of these people in this room and more. Okay, and once again, I said it last time, I'm going to say it again. You need to take the little tagline off the water tower and every place else that says, Winterville, a slice of the good life. Thank you.
Thank you. Evan, could y'all, yeah, wanna-
What's John doing?
You can let somebody else go, it's not loading.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Johnny Fleming. I live at 185 Foxcroft Lane, and our property will back up to the property that's in question. We've been here for 19 years, and I've been a part of the Winterville Parks and Recs for about 15 years. And I understand the responsibility that you have for helping Winterville to grow and making a decision for the citizens, because I have to do that with the Parks and Rec. We make decisions that will help benefit the lives of the young people of Winterville. Some things that come across our desk, some things that come across your desk, may be a good idea, but it's not necessarily the right thing to do for the town. It's not going to benefit the town. And this new development that they're trying to do, they're proposing to put 55 homes on about 14 acres of land. Waterford currently has 90 homes on 65 acres. So this property is approximately 21% smaller than the property of Waterford. But they're going to have 61% of the homes built on that small piece of property. So there's going to be a lot of density, a lot of congestion on that property. It's going to cause problems not only for Waterford, but also for the neighborhoods to the south of that development. And I understand that you have an awesome responsibility to make a decision on whether to approve or deny this project. I'm asking you to deny the project because it's not best for Winterville. Good ideas may be good, but not necessarily the right thing to do. Foresight is always better than hindsight. Thank you.
Good evening, council. My name's Ed Reynolds. I live at 2202 Wolf Trap Circle. I'm on the far side of this subdivision, but I still feel like it will affect me and just about as much as it will the people that will be backed up to it. I've had problems on my side with the reclassification and rezoning on the land behind me. Now, first of all, I'd like to ask a question. Now, he stated that each lot size was going to be 6.2. I think he meant 0.62. Is that not correct? 0.62. The size of the lots are going to be 0.62.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
I think he was referring to the number of units per acre.
That's correct.
6.2 units per acre.
Stephen, would you repeat that item?
Yes, let's see.
It's hard to see over that way.
Just
I believe
make
it was-
sure I have it right. Let me double check
I don't want
it.
to try to say it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't either. Let's see. So it is 6.22 units per acre.
Thank you.
0.22 units per acre. Okay. Thank you. The other question I have is on the development. I wish we could have that back up here. But I'd like to know the distance. If this went through, how close are these houses going to be? I believe you'd be able to jump from one roof to the next. I mean, you know, just ridiculous. I know somebody has a business downtown, says it would be good. The people could walk there. How are they going to walk there? Like somebody said, the middle of Railroad Street at nighttime? No. Did they incorporate any sidewalks in this subdivision? No. So what's the people going to do? And of course, somebody said playgrounds. There's no justification for any playgrounds there. So what are the children going to do? They're going to play in the street. That would be bad for the children. I mean, 8-year-olds at nighttime getting run over by cars in Greenville. Yeah, you know, that's bad. You know, we don't want anything like that happening here. But the size of the lots and the houses would be detrimental to the rest of Waterford. And I hope I can get all of you to vote no. Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Is that a document that our crowd has seen? I'm a little interested in the device you're using.
Yes.
Our staff has seen it?
We had it at the last meeting. It was at the zoning, yes.
Okay.
Hey, can you proceed without it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay,
I just had
yeah.
some images of
Okay.
some items. So, good evening, Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. I also reviewed and was present at the Winterville Land Use meetings here in this room here. And looking at that land.
Excuse me, state your name and address, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Michael Moore, 237 Foxcroft Lane. Bought my lot and built my house there 22 years ago. I also reviewed and was here at the meetings for the land use plan, and looking at the plan, 81% of the public input requested a house with a large lot. So going with the R6 is in reverse of R20 of residents requesting large lots. If you search Realtor.com, if you look for half-acre lots and larger, which is 20,000 square feet roughly, there's only 23 homes available in Winterville right now. You search 7,500 square foot lots, you have 109. That's 4 times the amount of homes currently. So Winterville has a need for larger lots. Also, in the Winterville Land Use Plan, it said it may be necessary to deny rezoning requests if they are premature or do not fit well with surrounding uses, even if the future land use map supports the rezoning. Also within that, the public comment concerns were regarding stormwater and flooding, especially related to areas in the community. I had some maps showing, some pictures showing the drainage. All the drainage in Waterford goes directly to that pond, that ditch, which is open ditch, which does need some work. If you take the adjacent lot and you put 55 impervious surface homes, that's going to greatly impact the flow of water, and putting in piping is going to cover up the issue. You won't be able to see the flooding, you won't be able to fix the issues. I have photos from 2011, 2011 all the way to 2023 this year of flooding in the Waterford and Vernon White area. I have worked with or called Public Works. They have fixed some issues, but it's still a major issue. And adding impervious surface to that land will not help this issue at all. Those are some of the reasons we are in opposition to the rezoning request.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gina Blaylock. I live at 226 Vernon White Road, and I find myself kind of in between a rock and a hard place. I am a realtor, and I help people buy and sell homes, and I truly love my job. I've worked with both Homer and Will Kuhn, have sold their homes, and they build good products. This vision of theirs looks very nice on the face, but I just don't think it's the vision for Winterville's future. I think putting that small of a development there with all the concerns, the drainage, the transportation, all the other things that you've got going on with that, the cars, the number of people coming in, I think it's going to have a negative impact for the future vision. I think if you look long-term for what you want Winterville to be, for what you want to see when you drive down Railroad Street, you're going into the town. You're building a neighborhood. It's kind of buffered in. The streets go in, and the houses, you're looking at the back end of houses. You could put something in there, a sidewalk leading into, you talked about you want to walk into and create traffic, foot traffic going into Winterville. None of this creates that foot traffic. I think they've got a good vision, I just don't think it's the right vision. I think that we could put something together that would be much better suited for that particular piece of property and for the residents of Winterville, not just for Waterford, but for all of the town. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Whitfield, and I live at 117 Foxcroft Lane. And I am a part of the Waterford community as well. Everything that everyone has said with regard to drainage, I've seen it since I lived there. The street backing up with water, you having to wade through the water. That's an issue that probably should have been addressed before this meeting about this neighborhood, but it's here now. We have it to talk about. I just have a couple of points. Everything everybody has said about the drainage and the lot size, I don't think the rest of the residents have an issue with something being there. But like they said, our lots are R20. People move there for a reason, and putting R6 right behind R20 is not what I feel is the best use of that space. Also, a lot of these people are long-term residents. They've been there for a while, and they've been paying taxes here in Winterville. They have committed themselves to Winterville. I've lived in Winterville my entire, just about the entire time that I've been in Pitt County. So, I would ask you to consider that. We paying taxes right now. We here already.
I hope so.
Yes. So, we just don't feel like it's the right thing to do. I mean, I stood back there and I was kind of like, hey, I don't know exactly what I'm going to say, but this Winterville I'm committed to. My kids went to school here, grew up here, and I don't plan to live anywhere else. When my wife and I bought this house, we said, hey, this is my forever house. This is where this is where they're gonna plant me at. Not exactly in the backyard, but this is where we're going. So, and I think there was some talk, the traffic, like they said, traffic is a bear getting out of the neighborhood unless you're an extremely aggressive driver. You should not have to be an aggressive driver to get out of neighborhoods, and if we want to be safe and keep things in such a way where it's conducive for kids to be able to move around and families to be able to get in and out of downtown, if that's a concern, we need to make sure that those that we don't have so much traffic that you cannot do that. I mean, I can get out going to my job in the morning, but like I said, I'm an aggressive driver. But I just wanted to make sure that we did not end without all of us having an opportunity to say something. I appreciate you all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I just want to say good evening to everyone here today, the mayor, the town council. I'm a resident. My name is Wilmon Lee. I live at 146 Lismore Drive, and I like where I live. I can address the issues of water. I've seen water in my backyard. I've seen water on the side of my house. I've seen water in the front yard. I've seen water in the street. I got a drain to my right. I got a drain to my left. I got a drain in the back, and the water still comes up and stands. We have an issue. And I don't want to exacerbate that issue any further than what it is. I just decided to come tonight, and I didn't come here to make a speech or do anything like that because I wasn't going to do that. But I wanted to voice my opinion in that I just feel with all the issue we got going now, maybe this is not the right time for whatever you're considering. And I'm just here to let you know, I just don't feel it. I see it and I understand it, but it's a problem as it is. And you don't want to exacerbate it any further than what it is. What I do know is, I'm not a believer in HOAs. Someone asked me a question once when I moved here, said, do your area have a HOA? I had to stop and think. He said, if you had to stop and think, you don't have it. And in that regard, I say, I don't care for HOA. I don't believe in it. I've seen them. I understand their work is in and out. I know what they did. No, I don't believe it. I'm just here to say, from my own personal self, for where I live, I just don't feel it. I don't see it. And I hope you make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Jeff Foster. I live at 175 Foxcroft in Waterford. And before I get started, I want to ask everyone who's one of my neighbors in Foxcroft that's here tonight, would you please stand? Thank you all. You know, first I want to thank the council for your careful consideration of this. I think over the course of the last few days I've had a chance to speak with most of you. I got to talk with Dr. Harrell by phone today, and I didn't catch Ms. Robertson until she got here tonight, but I was able to speak with all of you. And I appreciate the very difficult job you do. We all appreciate that. Mayor, the mayor actually came out and listened to us during a separate listening tour, and we all are grateful for that. Everyone in our neighborhood is. I heard something during the course of this that bothered me a little bit. I heard that the people in Waterford think they're a little elite, that they may be a little elitist in their attitudes, that they think that they should get their way. Well, you know, I don't see that. What I see looking around this room is one of the most diverse, balanced neighborhoods that you're going to ever find anywhere. We have people of every kind of job, every kind of race, creed. We got some Yankees. We got people from the South, like me. You can tell by listening to me talk. We have a group of people that have come together to make a nice neighborhood. And we live together harmoniously, and we work together for the good of where we live because we care about it. We care a lot about it. And that's why these folks are here, because they care about their neighborhood. Now, every one of them is again, one of my neighbors. They're taxpayers. You've heard that a few times tonight. And everyone here is passionate about this issue because they want our neighborhood to be protected. And we don't want our property values to go down, but we don't want to increase dangerous situations and damaging situations also. When drainage, I understand that Mr. Tyre has come back since planning and zoning and has done substantial modifications to his plan. Okay? But has he told you when he presented, well, this is my preliminary plan, okay? Preliminary. We don't have any hard, cold facts about what this is going to be. So what do we know? We know that that property slopes back toward our neighborhood. And we know that all the water that comes off of that land goes in the ditch at the back of our neighborhood. And we know that when that ditch fills up, that the streets flood and people have to leave their cars on the street and walk to their homes sometimes. We know that that when we walk to our neighbor's house, sometimes it's mushy because it drains slowly. And that's just the nature. We all accepted that when we bought property there. But we did not accept it being made worse because of short-sighted development. And that's the issue that we have. Every one of us in our neighborhood deals with pulling out into traffic every day. We try to turn out on Highway 11. We try to turn out onto Cooper Street and Vernon White Road, and we try to get out to Old Tar, and we take our lives in our own hands daily, okay? We know it's dangerous, all right? But we don't want it to be more dangerous. We took the risk that we're taking, but we don't want to create more risk. And 55 houses on 14 acres is going to create a substantial traffic problem that's going to endanger young children at that school. It's good. All these people that you want to see walking to the bars and the restaurants, it's going to endanger them. okay? And it's going to endanger every one of us that try to go to work so we can pay those taxes that we've talked about so many times tonight. It's going to impact us. It's going to impact our property values because the property development is not consistent with what's there. Okay? The density is too high. If this plan goes through, I will have 2.5 backyards on my backyard. Okay? 2.5 backyards will be on my backyard. That's the difference in density between what's there now and what will be there if you approve this zoning change. That's too much. That's too much. So, we said it at the planning and zoning meeting before. I'm going to say it again. There's not a person in this room that lives in this neighborhood that is opposed to this property being developed. Okay? We think people ought to have the right to develop their property. But we think it should be done with wisdom and with forethought, and when we go in knowing what the effects are going to be. We don't need preliminaries. Okay? There haven't been any hydrologists that have looked at the drainage of this property. We don't know the impact of putting a retention pond right next to a major substation, Greenville Utilities. The property floods anyway. What's going to happen if that thing floods? Okay? We don't know what's going to happen. And because we don't know, it's not time to do this. This is the wrong time to take this step because there are too many unknowns, and the things that are known, every one of them are negative. Okay? Every single one of them. So what I would ask each of you to do is we elected you to make good decisions, and you have all the facts. You've heard the passion, you've heard the facts, you've heard the positions of everyone. I believe what you've heard tonight supports the denial of this request. I think there's a good basis to deny it. I think granting it would be reckless and premature. And on behalf of all of my neighbors here tonight, I would ask that you deny this rezoning request. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Anyone else?
I already spoke.
Yes.
Two things I missed.
Hey, excuse me. You can't speak again.
Okay.
Anyone else that hasn't spoke would like to speak?
But there is a restrictive covenant in the neighborhood, as opposed to what we're called.
Sir, please, we've been civil, so let's step to the podium.
I'm new to my name is Sotelo Long. I live at 1962 Cornerstone Drive in Winterville. And I'm new to this, so I'm just curious because I heard the first person who spoke said if this was an R20, there would be no problems with it by and large. I just don't know what an R20 is versus an R6, so could somebody please explain that for the benefit of Stephen?
So the R greatly represents residential. The number behind it is the amount of square foot on that lot. So R20 would be a 20,000 square foot lot, which is the largest zone that we have in Winterville. R6 is the 6,000 square foot lot, which is the smallest single family that we have in town of Winterville.
Okay. All right, with that being said, if no one else is coming up to speak, I declare the public hearing closed.
Got a question.
Question, Ms. Robertson?
I'm hearing a lot about drainage, and I know that we've done a lot about drainage in Winterville. Was this area, Waterford, included in the studies that we did we've got a large drainage project coming about with our ARP monies. Was Waterford included?
Off the top of my head, Councilwoman Robertson, I'm not sure that Waterford's included in the Noble Canal Drainage Basin, but we would have to double check that. I don't know off the top of my head. But I'd be glad to check that and get back with council.
I'd appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion to deny request.
I second.
Have a motion made by Councilman Tony Moore, seconded by Councilman Johnny Moore to deny the request. Is any questions before we go to the roll call of the vote?
I want to say this because I may not get to say it afterwards. I really wish that the residents of Waterford and the developer could come to a kind of a meeting ground. I'm hearing from Waterford that we're not going to accept anything but R20 lots. And the developer, he has addressed several of the concerns. He didn't change the size of the lots. But I really wish that the two groups could come together at some median place. You know, all of us have to give in to one thing or the other, you know. There are lots, he let us know that there are lots that he can develop right there on Worthington Street, right off Worthington Street, that are R6. So I really would like to see if the two groups could come together. I realize that, this is just one vote. You all realize that too. But I really wish that we could come together as a community.
Thank you. Any more discussion before we go to the roll call of the votes? If not, Madam Manager,
Okay, I'll start with Councilman Moore.
Or denial.
Yes.
denial. No, yes, no, what? What's your answer?
My motion, yes.
Okay, all right. I need.
For denial.
Councilwoman Robertson,
I'm going to vote for denial.
Councilman Rice. That's for denial.
For denial?
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Moy
Right. Vote, more vote denial.
and Councilwoman Harrell.
I'm voting for denial as well.
Okay, Mayor.
All right, we have a unanimous decision, 5 denying this rezoning request at this time.
Thank you for all coming tonight and sharing your voices. They are important. It feels good sitting here in my position all these years to see many people coming out for positiveness. Your major investment in your life is your home. Your investment, lifetime. Thank you again for coming.
And I would like to say to the residents as well, thank you for, sounds like you're not trying to stop growth, you want smart growth. Thank you.
All right.
And I would like to have those concerns that you have about drainage in your area brought to our attention so that we can include you in any efforts that we're doing to improve drainage in Winterville.
Motion for recess for a few minutes. It's been an hour and a half.
Hour and a half, no.
No. 5-minute recess.
Right. 5 minutes.
It's been an hour and a half. It's been an hour and a half.
I assume that's a yes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
We stand in recess.
We stand in recess. I didn't bring my sleeping clothes. Yeah, I didn't bring my pajamas. You what? I ain't planning on staying.
Oh, I know, I just went.
Could I have your attention? All right.
There you go. There you go.
I want y'all to leave him, because then y'all leave him, you'll leave me. Might be some.
I'd like to call the town meeting back to order. Next up of our public hearing is Gray Point Motors rezoning. Stephen, if you could come to the podium, please.
Good evening again, Mayor and Town Council. Again, the sheet, the handout with the blue tab has some details on letters that we have received, as well as comments during the public meeting that we had for planning and zoning. So we have received a rezoning request, Gray Point Motors. The applicant is the landowner, Linda Brock Best. Location is Chapman at the intersection of Depot Street. This is a 3.17 acre site. It is currently multifamily residential conditional district, in which the conditional district is that there were to be 48 units of age-targeted senior housing for 55 years and older. The proposed zoning district is a general business conditional district in which the conditions are a used car dealership with a mechanic shop. If we're looking at this map, the location of the property, we often call it the H property. As you can see, it is shaped like an H. It is north of Main Street. If you take Depot Street to Chapman, you'll run right into it. And that highlights the property that's in rezoning request. This is an aerial of the property. Again, highlighting the property. This is zoomed in on the property as well. This is an overlay of the proposed conditional district drawing. So as you can see in the middle, there is a building in the middle that will be the car show, office area, and 4 bays. Parking along the front adjacent to Highway 11. This is another drawing. The current zoning, again, is multifamily residential conditional district. As you see around it, the green is R6. There's central business across the street with this small lot here. There is general business on the corner. Most of it's R6 along Main Street on the northern side. North of the property, you have general business. And this is an existing land use map. This is pretty much just showing that this land is vacant currently. Right sandwiched in the middle of this property is a single-family residential home, as well as some commercial to the south, to the north, institutional. The future land use plan, as shown up there, it's a purple on my screen. It's kind of dark purple up here. This is showing a mixed use. The areas to the north of it are neighborhood commercial. Mixed use is essentially a mix of commercial, retail, restaurants, and service-oriented businesses with a variety of residential options, including multifamily, townhomes, and upper-story residential. Offices are also a potential on the upper floors. Walkable places with pedestrian focus, the downtown feel is essentially what you're looking for with the mixed-use center. Again, to dive a little bit deeper into the character area, it's a mixed-use center allows flexibility to respond to market demands by emphasizing the form of development over the use or intensity. These areas are made to feel a little bit of the hustle bustle, small town, downtown hospitality mixed in. What you look at on this table for rezonings is the potential zoning at the bottom. Central business, but also possibly multifamily, general business, commercial neighborhood, or office and institutional. The uses are predominantly retail, restaurant, shopping that creates an active frontage. Again, what you kind of see in a typical downtown area, small, walkable design. The buildings and parking are packed. The buildings are packed close together and pulled up to the front of the street, again, to create that pedestrian-friendly, walkable environment. Our downtown goals are primarily to activate the downtown, to allow people to live near downtown Winterville, to encourage dense residential development within walking distance to the downtown. Another goal is to expand office and commercial uses on the edge of downtown where there is limited conflict with existing residential and existing commercial as well. Again, to encourage infill and redevelopment in the downtown area. So with our future land use plan and our comprehensive plan, we had a small area study included. This is just kind of a sketch plan to show what the downtown area could be if you drew it in a perfect or unique light. Again, this is the downtown gateway to Winterville. You're turning onto Main Street coming into our historic downtown. West Main Street, again in the small area study, purpose is to serve as an entrance into the downtown, as a walkable area and smaller scale businesses. At the planning and zoning meeting, we had two speakers. Both were recommended denial. The first speaker believed that it was not at harmony with the surrounding area and had concerns with its impact on Chapman Street. These are both adjacent property owners, by the way. The second speaker had concerns about noise and the safety of the residents, the children that are living in the home that was sandwiched between the property, which we showed you a little bit earlier. Planning and zoning recommended 5-1 denial of the rezoning, January 17th, 2023. We also received a couple of emails. These were actually the same speakers, the same as the speakers at the P&Z. Again, preferred it to remain residential. Concerns of its impact on similar businesses in the area. Concerns that it may have a negative effect on the residential neighborhood and the atmosphere of the neighborhood in general, and to have traffic concerns as well. Staff is recommending that the proposed general business conditional district, used car lot with a mechanic shop, zoning district would not promote land uses that are compatible with the general character of the area. The property is located as the primary entrance to our downtown and as a walkable neighborhood with small-scale businesses. While some light commercial may be appropriate at this site, a proposal of a used car lot dealership with a mechanic shop is not consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. Therefore, the rezoning is not consistent with the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance, the future land use plan, or the existing developments and trends within this area. Staff recommends denial of the request to rezone the 3.17 acres from multifamily residential conditional district to general business conditional district. We are at the last step of the rezoning process today. We are going to open up to a public hearing. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Anybody on the board has any question for Mr. Penn?
What did you say? I missed that. You said staff recommendation was what?
Staff recommendation is that it does not align with the future land use plan, and therefore we're recommended denial.
Anybody else having questions for Mr. Penn? If not, with that being said,
thank you.
I would like to open up the public hearing for Gray Point Motor rezoning. If you are in favor of having Gray Point Motors rezoned, please step to the podium, state your name. Anybody that's in favor of having Gray Point Motors? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay. Anybody that is opposed to having Gray Point Motors move into this area, please step to the podium and state your name and address.
I'll be brief, as the staff already kind of reiterated my points. My name is Kevin Smeltzer, and although I live in Kinston, North Carolina, I'm here speaking on behalf of the members and the congregation and the staff at Gateway Christian Center that owns the property adjacent and across the street. And also, to be brief, I'll be the only one speaking. If everybody from Gateway could stand up that did come here. And I'll just real quickly say that we feel that this is not in harmony with the neighborhood and the consistency and the character of the neighborhood. And agreeing with us would be your future land use plan, the city staff, as well as the planning board. And just think there's some safety issues I'm not going to go over that the planner hit well enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, mayor, council members. I'm Neil Eltz. I live at 157 Witcher Lane. I'm the property owner at 2570 Chapman Street. Referred to the H property. I'm the house, I own the property right in the middle of the H. We too are against that. We're concerned about the safety of the homeowner there. The land will butt up to 3 sides of our property there. Fear for the safety of the child that lives in that residence, the mom, the grandmama as well. But like I said, I'll keep it short, but we just want y'all to know we're against that rezoning request, and we like the, remember the motto we use, the slice of a good life. And that's why we bought that property, and that's why the lady that lives there, she moved to Winterville. She's a grandmother. She has a daughter who works in the medical field and a grandchild. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak against this rezoning request? If there's no other, I declare the public hearing closed. What is the pleasure of the board?
Motion to deny the request.
We have a motion on the floor to deny the request by Councilman Tony Moore, second by Councilwoman Robinson. Before we do the roll call for the vote, anybody have any discussion? With no discussion, Madam Manager?
Absolutely, starting with Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilwoman Robertson.
Yes.
Councilman Rice.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Moy.
Yes.
And Councilwoman Harrell.
Yes.
A motion carried, a motion by 5.
Yes.
Rezoning request is denied. Okay. Thank you all.
Again, thank you for coming tonight.
Yes. Again, thank y'all for coming. And while y'all exiting the chambers here, I'd like to take this time to welcome our friend, Councilman Mark Smith. He's with us tonight. Again? Commissioner?
Commish.
Well, we'll get you somewhere. Well, we appreciate you being here. All right, next up, we have our public comment section, and so I'm gonna put on my glasses and read this statement so I can see. The public comment period of 30 minutes provide an opportunity for the residents to comment on any item included in the agenda or to address the town council on any other matters related to the town of Winterville. For an item included in the public hearing section of the agenda, residents should address the council at the time the mayor invites the public comments on the item. No public comment may be made to the council during the meeting, except during the public comment period or as part of the public hearing. Individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and no more than 3 speakers may address the council on a single matter. The town council may elect to take no action on the matter addressed by a speaker, may schedule the matter for further consideration at a further council meeting, or may refer the matter to the town staff for disposition. Copy of the town public comment period are available in the rear of the assembly room. And tonight, we do have some people that are signed up. We have 4 people. We're going to start off with Miss Rebecca Cavness with the Watermelon Festival.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I am the current acting president of the Winterville Watermelon Festival, and we're here to speak on the festival. But first, I'm actually going to let the board chair, Heather Jackson, speak before me.
Mayor and Council. So again, I'm Heather Jackson. I am the elected chair of the Watermelon Festival for the 2023 season. And I am here tonight to ask the town council to approve the grant funds that we will be using for the 2023 festival. This year, we do plan to have events on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Thursday night will be amusement ride night only. And I want to take this time also to thank the town staff for their hard work and assistance during the festival. Without their help, this event would not be possible. And we obviously want to make sure that that partnership and collaboration continues for the 2023 year. And we want to invite the town staff and, of course, the town council and mayor to our celebration at the end of this year's festival, which will be held in October. Thank you.
I just want to mention a few quick things. This is kind of our formality. We haven't submitted the grant application yet. It's not been released quite yet, but we want to make sure that we have the opportunity for the council to ask us any questions, remind everyone, including those in attendance, that the meetings that we hold are once a month. It's the second Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock. It's at the Redmen Building. If you're not sure where that is, feel free to contact me personally. You can look us up on our website, on Facebook, and reach out. Anybody is welcome to come for volunteering, or if you guys just want to observe. We've had some council members do that in the past. We really appreciate it. We are scheduling it. It is going to be the weekend of Saturday, August 26th. As Heather said, we are not going to do the opening night stuff on Thursday. That's going to be pushed to Friday this year, but we still will do the opening ceremonies. We do have a signed contract with our primary band for Saturday. We can't release it just yet, but I think that we're right on the cusp of that. Deposit monies are moving tomorrow, so we're really excited. We're getting a move on things. We are intending on doing the beer garden again this year. We don't want to make any changes to that, though. We want to keep rolling the way that we did last year. It's still new. We want to make sure that we feel really solid about that. We have gotten some encouragement to expand, but we're just not ready for all that just yet. And I think, oh, and our sponsorship applications are out for all those that are watching. We do depend on our sponsorships. That's very important. And again, I just wanted to make sure that everybody here has an opportunity to ask us any questions that you'd like. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? My only question is, are y'all starting to seeing things going in upward as far as
Participation.
As far as what? I'm sorry.
As far as money-wise?
I got you. So we did see, we made a profit last year from the beer garden, which we were really excited to see.
Right.
It wasn't anything astronomical, but we're really hoping that we can build on that and we'll see more in the future. We also saw that our Sunday event last year was really successful, and we're going to build on that this year. Put in a band on Sunday and everything, and that's part of kind of where we're headed, why we voted to eliminate putting so much into Thursday night, with that being the night of open house. We don't see as much attendance. I think that we put money into that and we don't see quite the recuperation. So we're experimenting a little and seeing if having like a family day on Sunday, if we expand on that, if we continue to see more money from it.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for them? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Miss Brandy Daniels.
Hello, how is everyone? It's a long night. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you first for allowing me to make a comment. I would like to say that my comment, I've actually had the same comment for a full month, right? And it was originated during our last meeting, but because of procedures and Robin's rules of order, I didn't have an opportunity to actually communicate this last month. So I just wanted to at least say that. So Brandy Daniels, 2945 Foxglove Drive. And so last meeting, there was a conversation about changing the time of the meeting to potentially 6 o'clock. And for me, like probably most people in Winterville, that's impactful because I work from 8 to 5 p.m. most days in order to afford my lifestyle and take care of my family. And so then once I pick up my daughter and then try to get through traffic into Winterville, it can be 5:30, 5:45 before I get home. By the time we have time to eat, it's 6:30, 6:45. At that point, I've been able to make arrangements with my husband to be here for the rest of the night so that I don't have to leave early. Moving that time up would impact me being able to be here. And so one of the things in my career is that I'm always looking at data and numbers before I make decisions. And so I was able to pull some information that really helped me understand the majority of the people who you want to come here are in the same position I'm in as far as time goes. 12.6% of the people in Winterville are over the age of 65. So the idea that people just have fluid time available to them is just not the standard in Winterville. Most of us are out working. And then I did want to just say, I did see the communication, Councilman Moy, I do appreciate you at least voicing, communicating with us as citizens and getting some feedback before a decision like that was made. And since that is a very important decision, I would just encourage you to do the same thing before you make something as drastic as that so that we can continue to increase participation. And I think changing to 6 would limit that participation. So I know mine would decrease if it changed to 6 o'clock. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Mr. Sean, if I mess up your name, don't charge it to me. But it's Laver? Laco. Sean Laco.
No one gets it right, so no worries.
All right.
Let's see if this will work better than the one before. Yes, okay. Open real quick here. There we go, maybe. All right, my name is Sean LeCove. I live at 245 Foxcroft Lane here in Winterville. And what I'm hoping to speak to you guys about today is this Winterville power cost adjustment that we're all affected by. And it's not scrolling down. Okay. We're going to, I got it. All right. So previously, just quick background, more for the people in the audience, because obviously you guys were part of this as well, that back in September, Robert Sutton and Jessica Manning had come to this board and asked for a 5-cent increase per kilowatt hour. And that was based off of natural gas prices. And that was to allow us to, due to changes in the energy market, the town had to react to remain financially secure. Very, very smart of them. It was great. The customers were impacted as of October. That's everyone that lives in Winterville was directly impacted here, okay? To the end, to end this, additional adjustment requires approval by the board here, the mayor, the council, to decide it's the time to retract that, all right? So, to kind of give you some background, Greenville residential electricity costs right at 12 cents, 11.77 per kilowatt hour. North Carolina average is at just under that, 10.91. The national average for electricity runs 11.88 cents. Winterville, before this, was right in line with Greenville at 11.7. Now we are sitting at 16.72. We are at almost 41% greater than the national average, okay? Below it, and I gave you copies of this as well, is where I got this information. It is actually coming, I can't even read it on this, I apologize, but directly from the Department of Energy. And let's go. So the driver of this, the primary, was natural gas. I pulled the economy, or the economy of the commodities, specifically of natural gas. And it's easier to see how it blow up because September 2023, or 2022, that's great. Anyway, was when this was enacted. You'll also notice it is the highest point of the natural gas commodity. Since then, it has dropped like a rock. In fact, today, on the 13th of March, we're at about 2020 levels, even if you go further back, 2018. We are no longer in the situation that initially created this issue. Summary, the result of this increase has placed our town well above the national average. And quite frankly, we can't afford to keep.
You have about 5 minutes.
Sorry. No, I'm over.
15 seconds. Lord.
Sorry.
Yeah.
5 minutes? No, but just basically, it's time to take a look at removing it. I encourage the team to see how we can do it.
Your time.
Yep, thank you.
Lord have mercy. Sorry about that. It's been a long night.
Here we go.
Can I say something while he's going back to his seat? I do want to thank Mr. James Godfrey Jones for his help with those U-cards. He's been calling and getting information for us and trying to help us work through that process to get it so our citizens can use that to pay their utility bills.
Thank you.
And Ms. Robertson, just so you know, staff is going to make a couple of quick comments
Right.
at the end of the meeting.
Next up, we have Ms. Chantel Hawkins.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council, Town Manager, Legal Counselor. First, to begin, I'm not directing my comment negatively towards Councilwoman Dr. Harrell. She followed the offer that was made to the public and submitted her letter of interest in terms of the seat for Town Council. I also congratulated her on her appointment in February. However, it is my duty to speak about the process to fill vacancies on the board. It is also my duty to encourage all citizens not to be dismayed when things have gone in such a disarray as this has. It appears that the process for filling the vacancy has a lack of consistency, transparency, and at some levels, authenticity. When you look at rule number 20 that was adopted by the Town Council, it states when a vacancy occurs on the board, The seat will be filled by the candidate from the previous election with the next highest votes, who is eligible and willing to serve. The person will be appointed by the board. The oath of office will be administered at the next regular town meeting. In December, former Councilman Smith resigned. But instead of appointing me, who being eligible and willing, a notice for letters of interest was sent out to the public. However, on the next regular town council meeting, Councilman Moy and Councilman Robertson expressed their objections. They nominated me, and this was voted down by Mayor Hines. Why did this occur? Why the deviation from the rule that previously was put in place when Councilman Rice was appointed? Who decides the deviation? Me, an invested and engaged homeowner and citizen for over 20 years, who has spoke before the board, who has helped the library to stay open when hours would be reduced, who has consistently asked for police and law enforcement and community relations to be improved, who has asked for inclusivity, transparency, transportation to be improved. Why was I not chosen when I was eligible and willing? I heard the mayor on the previous meeting say that the rule needs to be cleaned up. I will agree. It needs to be cleaned up. I feel that the policy was done dirty. I feel like I was done dirty. And I feel like the people of Winterville was done dirty. It needs to be fixed tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we're down to now consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion made by Councilwoman Rice, second by Councilman Moore. Any questions before we do the roll call? If none, Madam.
Councilman Moore. Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilwoman Robertson. Voting on the consent agenda.
Oh, yes.
Councilman Rice.
I'm sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem Moy.
Yes, get late.
And Councilwoman Harrell.
Yes.
For a minute, I thought, oh gosh, what did I do?
Okay. The motion carried 5-0. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Terry, is it up to you now?
Let's see. We are moving into old business.
Right. Electric
Yes.
rates update.
And I believe we have Ms. Manning, Mr. Sutton, and Mr. Bowers, who have been waiting all day to come talk to you this evening.
Okay.
They've been waiting with anticipation.
Good evening, and again, we are looking forward to this tonight. Listening to Mr. LaCroix a few minutes ago, I wish the gas pricing was as simple as it appeared. I will tell you that our gas turbine and the purchase of that gas is a real-time commodity. It's monitored 24/7, 365. People are purchasing gas, and the value of that gas, it quickly goes up, and it can just as quickly go down in the course of a day, much less a week or a month. The good news is, in looking at the forward curves, what the experts think we're going to be facing, they are very promising. They appear to be trending considerably down, not quite to the levels they were at when we first got in, but not too far from it. A lot of times you'll hear people say, the unit cost of gas is X. That unit cost is hard to determine for a number of reasons, and one is because there are different hubs. A hub is a place where gas lines intersect. Ours is the Zone 5. Henry Hub, which you often hear them refer to, is a little bit cheaper, and some people get that confused, and they think we're paying that price when in fact we're not. We're paying the Zone 5 prices, and that Zone 5 is the Mid-Atlantic area, and it is greatly impacted by a number of things, the population growth, the density of homes, people using natural gas, and what we had been hoping for at one time which was the Mountain Valley Pipeline Interconnect, has been delayed, hopefully temporarily, and that will have a positive impact as well. It's a supply and demand issue, and the demand has been great, and the supply has not been as high as we had all hoped for. But it does look promising. It does look like it's recovering.
Robert, may I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
And I hate Mr. LaCove left, but the national average that he was referring to, it's a little bit skewed when you look at Zone 5.
It is.
So I just wanted to reiterate that point, that you can't
Sure.
take the national average and have it necessarily completely relate to what Winterville's paying.
That's right. And I'd also say, we have been, I think Anthony's going to speak on this in a minute, we've been very conservative with raising the prices. We delayed it as long as we possibly could, which meant our losses went up considerably more. We are not the only municipal power provider that's had to do this. Everyone has done it that's in our group with the Kings Mountain Energy Center. They've done it in a couple of different ways. Some has just been a simple power adjustment. Some have it where it's done every month. I think that's a route we chose not to do because when you're trying to recover cost each month, it is very difficult. It's, to borrow a phrase I heard from Chief Moore one time that stuck with me, it's like herding cats. It is difficult. The prices they fluctuate so much. So we decided to look at it as a more all-encompassing approach. We increased the rate 5 cents on the kilowatt hour for two reasons. One was to stop where we had been hemorrhaging money. We had lost quite a bit out of our fund. Some was to recover that cost, stop the bleeding, and some was to offset the future costs that we knew were going to be coming as well. And I think we've done that. We've done an admirable job. I'd like to thank council certainly for listening to that and voting along those lines. But what I will tell you is things do look promising. We think the worm will turn, so to speak. And to back some of that information up, I'm going to turn it over to the finance guys.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. As you know, we've been monitoring this closely. The power cost adjustment was not anything we wanted to do. It was not an attempt to, line the pockets of the town of Winterville. And in fact, it was a reaction to the energy markets, as Mr. Sutton previously explained. I would say one thing too is there's a lot of times lags in data at the federal level, as well as lags in processing when things occur. And so what I'd like to do is, send out some financial information to the council earlier, and the decisions that the council have made are working. The fund is getting healthier rapidly. We also had a plan, and that plan was when we implemented this back in October. Well, we discussed it, and then the implementation began in October. But the plan was to revisit that in the spring and revisit it and see how long we're going to have to keep the rate at where it was. And so here we are. We discussed it last month and discussing it again tonight. And so I'm going to bring forth a recommendation I'd like to propose to the council here in a minute. Staff is, based on the improvements that have been made, staff is recommending a 50% reduction in the power cost adjustment. And that will give us an opportunity to get our rates back in line with our standard rate, which is, as it was presented earlier, around 11 cents per kilowatt. And so we want to make sure we taper down off this PCA so that as we roll into the end of the fiscal year, we'll make sure that electric fund is financially secure. So we are recommending that reduction take place with the April billing. That would be billed on April 30th. So that would be the usage that ends on April 15th on the big cycle. And so we have 2 cycles. We would recommend that they be consistent with the same number of billings in each cycle. So if we had the power cost adjustment since October, we want to make sure they're equivalent so that everybody gets the
How
same
much
thing.
reduction?
A 50% reduction in the power cost adjustment.
Power cost.
So that would be 2.5 cents on the power cost adjustment. And we would also, I'm also recommending continually monitoring this, and if we can reduce it further, obviously we will. And I want to, make sure, we fielded a lot of calls internally regarding this subject, and I think there's a little bit of unawareness of how much work we put into it to try to manage this process. I mean, this is an unprecedented event. I mean, I don't recall it in my career. And so, to make sure the town's responsible and the council was receptive, and we tried to keep it as a short a tenure as possible, and to get through this tough period of time. And so we have had an energy rider in the past, but it didn't last long, much like this one. Hopefully won't. And so as we reduce this, we'll continue to monitor, and hopefully natural gas prices will get to the point where we don't have to have the power cost adjustment as it is today. So obviously we're getting ready to roll into our budgetary process. That gives us a good opportunity to look at our rates and make sure we're being responsible with our revenues. One other thing I would like to say is that our rates have not changed since 2009.
Say it again?
Our rates have not changed since 2009.
Okay, all right.
And I will say there are most systems out there who cannot say that.
Correct. So if we may have to have a short window period of time to help alleviate the pain, so to speak, because we were in a bad situation. The markets went up very rapidly. And as I said, things have lags. So it's not like we can just say, oh, the prices are going up today, hey, let's change the rate. It just doesn't work. There's billing lags, and then there's, council meetings and everything that goes along into that to try to get that process to work properly. But that's our recommendation, and I stand by for any questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Is there a motion on that?
Please.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion, we take his recommendation and reduce our power reduction of 50%.
The power cost adjustment.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion made by Councilman Moore, second by Councilwoman Robinson. Any discussion?
Anthony, one of the things that concerns me, and I was sitting here thinking that the reason why we did what we done was because of the cost and because of the winter. Okay, now we're looking at the spring and the summer coming. So how do we start preparing? So you're saying it's a good possibility that we might have to go back and revisit this again coming this fall?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And put this, so I just want to make sure that I understand it. Now, if we lower I think that's the right thing to do, is to give back. But when we take back, that means that we're going to have to go back and grab it again. It's a good possibility.
Correct. So the alternative would be the 11 cent per kilowatt that has been there since 2009 would be to increase that rate, and you could reduce the power cost adjustment or alleviate the power cost adjustment. However, that doesn't give you the flexibility that the power cost adjustment does. So right now, what we're able to do is keep it off the book. I mean, keep it as low as possible based on what energy markets are doing. And so if we get into the fall and we've eliminated the power cost adjustment and put it in a base rate, then you've had the electric rate increase, but you've gotten rid of the power cost adjustment. Well, if those gas prices spike like we saw around Christmas, you may take another hit again. So it's kind of to be proactive. It's very difficult to say because we don't know what the energy markets are going to do for next fall. Now we have projections, but they could change with one world event. I mean, something as simple as.
Well, it will be a 2.5%.
Cents, 2.5 cents.
Yes, cent. I'm sorry, 2.5 cents.
Right, per kilowatt hour.
It was 5 cents.
That's right.
And we're going to give back 2 cents and a half.
Right.
Okay, But the other 2.5 cents, we're going to let it stay, we're not going to bother it, or we're going to put that back?
We're gonna
look at
continue to
later on?
monitor the market and see, once financially we're not losing money, that we can, at that point, we would come back, staff would come back with a recommendation saying, hey, we've stopped the bleeding to the point where we feel like we can alleviate the power cost adjustment.
Do you have a crystal ball about, no, I'm not, really, I'm saying about when you think we might come back and revisit this? We're speaking of talking about sometime in May, June, July, when it's hot, you know what I'm saying? We're not gonna
So there are some variables that are gonna affect how fast we recover. The natural gas cost, so if it spikes for some reason, and then weather. So even though I hear customers say all the time, well, I keep my thermostat on 72, I never touch it. Well, you keep it at 72, but the temperature drops to 30, it's going to work harder. It's going to have a lot higher usage than if you keep it at 72 and it's 60 outside. So even though you're not changing your thermostat, the unit is still working and you're getting more usage. So those two variables make it very difficult to say exactly when that will occur. I mean, we can make some estimates, but I mean, our goal right now is to get to the end of the fiscal year and not be in the red, because we were in the red almost $1 million last year, so.
Good plan.
And I think it's important to just reiterate what Anthony said. You've almost got two sides of the coin. You've got this, what we had hoped was a transparent line item, this power cost adjustment, so that people could see specifically what increase they were seeing with this 5 cents that we put into place in the fall. But you've also got the actual rate structure itself that we were telling council back when we signed on with Kings Mountain and even before. It's great to keep your rates stable as long as you can. And we were certainly hoping that we were going to be able to carry that out for so many years after signing that contract. We have more than met the majority of those years. So we need to take a look at that rate and what that actual rate needs to be. That may encompass an adjustment in an upward fashion. So where you may see a reduction in your power cost adjustment line item, we may be coming to you, and I don't know that for a fact, but it is very likely, because we don't think gas prices are going to go back to where they were. I don't think the Ford shows back at $2.50, does it, Robert?
Not always on fire.
So I do think we're going to have to look at an adjustment in the actual rate and what that looks like. So there's going to be your power cost adjustment and how we address that, but then for the long haul, if you will, actually what the rate needs to be. So I just want to remind everybody of that as we get into these budgetary discussions. A reduction in the power cost adjustment doesn't take the challenge away, because I do think these global markets are going to continue to affect what we need to do. And with that said, correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone around us is having to grapple with it. Whether you buy from Duke, whether you buy from somewhere else, everybody has the same challenges.
And Duke is, some of these larger entities are going to have lags. Speaking of lags, I'm kind of coming back to that, because they have to go through the utility commission. Fortunately for us, we can react a little bit. We can be a little bit more nimble. We can be a little bit quicker, because we don't have to go through the process of going through the utility commission for rate increases.
Because Duke get ready to raise theirs.
Yes, on a multi-year
Right.
increase plan.
They're looking at long-term rate increases on an annual basis.
Any more questions for call for the vote, please? If none, Madam Manager.
Okay, we had a motion and a second, so I'll start with Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilwoman Robertson.
Yes.
Councilman Rice. Mayor Pro Tem Moy.
Yes.
And Councilwoman Harrell.
Yes.
Mayor?
Motion carried, 5-0.
Thank you.
And just for the record, no cats were harmed during this electric rate increase.
Thank you, Mayor.
Decrease.
Absolutely.
Mr. Sutton.
You want that in the minutes, Mayor?
Absolutely.
Make sure the Peter people don't be calling.
Thank you, Don.
Okay. Next up is rules and procedure, Madam Clerk. Madam.
That's all right. I'll
Manager.
be clerk, manager, whatever it takes. Just a reminder to the mayor and council, we've been in this discussion about potential changes to the town council's rules of procedure. Just as a quick reminder, the council adopted the rules of procedure document. I believe they were still, you were all still aldermen at that time, so you'll see that that document still reflects aldermen, but basically town council rules of procedure in 2008. Section 20, which Ms. Hawkins referred to in her public comments, deals with filling a vacant board seat. Been a lot of discussion about changes to that particular section of the policy, whether it remains a policy, whether we do something more substantial with it, or whether we just do away with it altogether. In discussions that the town attorney and I've had, and Keene, please don't let me speak for you if I misspeak, but I think we feel like we need a little more direction from council about what you'd like to see us work on with respect to this specific section of the policy.
Correct, yeah, just very quickly, two things. I think, one, we're looking at maybe not an overhaul of the whole rules of procedure, but you may want to look at it and make some adjustments, because it has been approved some time ago. And then specifically Rule 20, we'll be glad to go and start drafting revisions and get it back to you. We just need some guidance on which direction y'all would like us to go, and we'll bring you something back quickly.
For instance, the number of people who file for office would be in there. If you had a lot of people file, you would have a big person quicker than you did if you had less people file. As, you know, somebody just might throw the name out and not live in town and say they live in town.
There's a lot of scenarios that you can certainly try to go through to make sure the policy covers all of it.
You know, in tonight, the policy about how much time they should have to talk about for or against this in a public hearing. That needs to be changed. I mean, we sat here a long time, and the developer, nothing against him, he went on and on and on to sell us a product. You know? He should have 3 minutes.
As far as the rules of procedure, they were developed to try to streamline and try to make everything consistent and fair. And it seems like since they've been developed, they've muddied, you know, in essence, they've muddied the water, you know. It hasn't been that they've, you know, cleaned up the water. It seems like there's been a lot of things that came about to confuse and for us not to be consistent. And I just don't see where we're going towards making things clearer and more consistent. It seems like we're just making things more complex. As far as I'm concerned, we just leave them alone.
Anyone else?
Leave them as they are, no revision?
Leave them as they are.
Well, let me just say, you're talking about Section 20 or just in general?
The whole thing.
Well, there's some changes that need to be made, because again...
I mean, Alderman, I know
Okay,
that needs to be
okay,
changed.
yes.
Unless it's changes that need to be made because of terminology for our board and things like that. Necessary updating that needs to go on.
Gotcha.
And very quickly, my 2 cents. We don't often go to the rules of procedure because the way the meetings are run, we don't need to. But there has been, over the years, several times I've gone to it where we looked at specific motions and things to do, motions to rescind and what. It's been very helpful. I will say, though, I mean, just off the top of my head, without looking through notes and documents, the one place where we every now and again come back to questions is the Rule 20. I would say if we're going to change anything, that's really where we probably would make the most money by looking at that.
But we're not following Rule 20. I mean, it does, well, I'll say it like this. We've got it, and it hasn't been something that we've been able to use except maybe once during the time that we've had it, so. But it just seems like it's confused things more than this help. It hasn't simplified anything, and I felt that it would simplify things, but they don't. But you want me to make a motion?
I need to hear from Mr. Moore.
Well, I think I had spoke on my outlook on this rule number 20. And I think it's a rule that we can we can use, but we're going to have to use it all the time. That's the problem that I'm having with it, that we use it if it's in my favor. But if it's not in my favor, I don't want it. And it shouldn't be that way. A rule supposed to be placed. If I like it or dislike it, I got to abide by it. I get out there and run out there, and Chief catch me out there running 95 miles an hour, Chief going to give me a ticket. I ain't going to like it.
I hope the chief
But it's
lock
the
you up.
right thing to do, because it is the rule. What I'm saying is, that is the rule. You're not supposed to be going out there 95 miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour zone. He gonna stick by the book. And what I'm saying here with this, if we can stick, if we're gonna have a rule, go by the rule. I don't want to be like a flounder. I don't want to be on one side and then just because, and be on the other side just because. It's just my opinion. It's just my opinion.
All right, Paul. You finished?
Yes.
Okay, Paul.
Maybe we should add a little more clarity. I'm not, I haven't.
I think that's what Keen and I are trying to
Right.
determine.
Okay.
If that is the case, what does that look like to council?
Ms. Herrera, you have anything you want to say?
Yes, go ahead. So I would just say that we need to, as a council, look at revising it so it would, fit and be aligned with what the entire council would like to see. So I do agree with our town attorney regarding us as a council looking at this and making revisions to it.
Okay, hold on, Tony. Let me get my piece in right quick. But my thing is, I looked at Rule 20, I read Rule 20. I think Rule 20 was used properly when we had it before, when we did Paul. All right? We never had a situation that we had two council people in a setting, correct, King?
I don't recall one, Mayor.
Right. And so therefore, when I looked at Rule 20, I'm just telling you what, for me, when I looked at Rule 20, I felt like Rule 20 was followed. But it had no precedent to then go on to a second time. So therefore, you follow the rule. The rule was followed. It stated that you pick the next person. It didn't say you pick other people afterwards. So therefore, you follow the rule. And everybody keeps saying the rule was followed. It didn't say you go to the next person. It says that person, the person, the next highest vote getter is that person. It doesn't keep saying, the rule didn't say you keep going down the line, going down the line, going down the line, going down the line. It didn't say that. It doesn't specify that. And then it also states, if you look at it, it says after an election, a town election. That's what it states. If I'm wrong, correct me, it says a town election. That wasn't a town election. That wasn't a town election. So therefore, it arbitrarily, to me, then you go to, that's where you need to define, to put the language in, that you go to draft asking, for nominations. Because there's not an election at that point in time. Now, if there was an election, we're gonna follow the rule, because it's here. It says when a vacancy on a board, well, I ain't got to read it, y'all know what it is. No, read it.
Well, there is a second paragraph that's not included in that version that speaks a little more to
All right, if you want to
maybe what we
read it.
had in place.
Okay.
Again, that goes back to the versions
Right.
that we've been able to put our
It
hands
says,
on.
okay.
But it doesn't speak specifically and succinctly to what we dealt with.
Right. It says, when a vacancy occurred on the board, the seat will be filled by the candidate from the previous election with the next highest number of votes who is eligible and willing to serve, i.e. was Paul. The person will be appointed by the board. The oath of office will be administered at the next regular board meeting. What I took from this was the vacancy would be filled by a candidate from the previous election. Okay? That was the previous election. Paul was that person. We filled that seat. We didn't have an election. I mean, what else can you read out of that? We didn't have an election.
Do we need to add word previous municipal?
Okay. Now, if we want to get down and drill down into it,
but
that's
those
what we
were-
need to do. If the rule is right, we just need to add that if there's not a municipal election, then we could solicit, or either y'all want to change it and say we go down to the next person. Keep drilling down, drilling down, drilling down. We just need some, that's my clarity. That's all I'm asking.
And I'd like to say that these rules of procedure were not created. We didn't start with a blank sheet of paper. We actually started with a document from the school of government. And so that's where these rules and procedures came from.
And they came from Robert's Rules, basically
Well,
taking and
modified.
condensing greatly Robert's Rules of Order, so that you don't have to rifle through Robert's Rules
Right.
of Order to address these things, but there you go.
And
I'm
if
gonna
you
ask
were
you,
to
can I-
get those and look at them, you see that they match up.
Right.
Pretty much. Only thing might, the terminology as to our positions, councilwoman, councilman, alderman, or either Winterville or something like that. But outside of that, they follow pretty much the guide from the rules for small boards and
Yes, ma'am,
commissions.
almost to the T.
But studies show that a 5-member board should be illegal. We need a 6-member board so the mayor can break the tie, like Greenwood does. I did some studies way back, and as administration, as educator, and the 5-member board is wrong. That's we have them. Remember, before I came on, we only had 3 members.
Right.
And I came to this board in 1989 when I moved to Winterville. And I asked this board to do 5 members, get it from 3 to 5. The mistake was, should have got even more, 6 like Greenville, and he gets the vote. That makes it more, they said 6 to 7 is ideal. 6 board members and a mayor.
So we went from 3 members to 5 then?
Right.
Right. That was a
Mr. Moore,
charter amendment years
Mr.
ago.
Moore needs to.
I just got a question. The election for the county commission, was that on the normal schedule, or was that on that schedule because of the pandemic?
7th member.
No.
That's a normal,
It was
that's a
a normal
normal.
schedule.
that's a
That
normal
was on the
schedule.
normal schedule?
That's a normal
Now,
schedule.
because Greenville had an abnormal election, is that correct?
I'm not
Because-
aware of any counties that were on that abnormal schedule. I think it was only certain municipalities, but you are correct. Greenville had an
Greenville had
cycle
that
election.
because we are nonpartisan, and they vote in districts. That was the reason.
Correct.
That was why they had to do theirs.
But my question was,
That was still on schedule.
so
That
the,
was-
so
all
the
right.
county commission was on schedule?
Yeah, the county commission was
Okay,
on
that
schedule.
was my question.
Right.
Okay.
That was on schedule.
We got no seat of it.
Greenville had to wait for the census data
Right,
to
census
decide on its
got a space
wards.
of it. Right.
And that was why they had to wait
Wait.
to do their election. All the places that did wards, a lot of them did that. They waited to do their election.
All right.
Uh-huh.
You answered my question.
So where we at?
I would just maybe, because this is something that it requires, because the more you think about it, the more questions you have. Maybe if over the next week or two, if the board members think of ideas, if you'll email them to Terry or to me, Terry and I talking, we can take your individual ideas and start working on a revision. And I'm, of course, mainly talking about Rule 20. But if you've got changes elsewhere, but email us your thoughts and we'll start working on something.
Could we agree on that we would have this as a base, what we already have in place?
Well, see, I do think that needs to be addressed, is whether the meat of what currently exists is something that this board wants to build off of, because if not, then we got to back up and regroup and figure that out.
You need that as a motion?
Yep.
I would like to make a motion then that we use this as a base and then we can add to what we already have in place.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Moy, second by Councilman Rice. Any discussion?
I was against rules to begin with, so I'm going to vote against it.
Okay, well, okay, that's your choice. Call for the vote.
Okay, I think I just heard Councilman Moore's vote. He votes against, no. Councilwoman Robertson?
Yes.
Councilman Rice? Mayor Pro Tem Moy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Harrell?
Yes.
Mayor? 4-1.
There's a 4-1 vote in favor of keeping the meat of.
Yes, using Rule 20 as a
rules-
base.
rules- Using Rule 20 as a base. As a base, okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you. Mayor, are you ready to move into new business?
Yeah.
I can take that if you'd like me to.
Yes, please.
Folks, as you know, we have a municipal election on the horizon. We have 3 seats on their normal schedule and 1 that's a midterm election. Don provided you with a plethora of information in your packet. I believe you have 2 items of business this evening. And Don, I'll let you go over it.
I'm going to try to, I've got a little bit of a cold, so Madam Manager, if I start to fade,
I've
pick me
got
up.
you.
We probably have 2, and if you want to put them together, that'd be fine with me. We have one-stop voting. You'll see in the handouts, if you want to have the separate or extra time in our community room, it's going to be $11,529.37, which you have your prorated portion that you have to pay is $12,965.83, which would total up to $24,495.20. So you need to decide whether you're going to have the one stop over here or not. And then also the filing fee, your existing or the last filing fee was $12. It has to be greater than 5% and less than 1% of the pay. So any discussion and/or action as you choose to.
So if council wants to have one stop and wants to leave the filing fees as they are, you could certainly take that up in one motion. Obviously, if you want to change either, then we need to take them separately.
How much do we have? I didn't look in my budget. How much is the budgeted amount for the, the last municipal election?
It's in the range of 20 with the one stop. Let's just
About the
say
same
round
thing.
it off as 25. It might have been slightly less, but not much.
So this would be included in our budget this year?
In our budget process for 23-4. Doesn't even make sense to say that, but 23-24.
Well, in more discussion, I want to make a motion.
Are you good with the filing fees staying as they are, Councilwoman Robertson?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we budget money for the extra week of early voting here, right here in Winterville, and we also maintain our filing fees as they are.
Have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Robinson, second by Councilman Paul Rice, to keep our filing fees as it is and to budget for 1 week on municipal election.
Yes.
One question.
Yeah. Mhm.
The turnout that we have, do we know approximately the percentage that Aiden participate in the early vote here when we have a one-stop?
We have no idea of the breakdown. I don't know that they can even determine that.
So what we do know is that if we're not the busiest, which I believe we are.
We probably are.
In the entire county, we are right up at the top.
Right.
And the only, with discussions we had the last election and this, we have little to no control, our hands are tied. Where they get us is the prorated portion includes everybody for countywide. But to have the extra one here for that week, even because it allows people from all over the county to vote, we have to foot the bill, so to speak.
The whole bill.
We have a county commissioner here who can lobby for us to get some of our money back, since we have so many people voting from all over the county here at our voting place.
We did
It's not
look
gonna happen.
into and address whether or not we could have our site dubbed as one of the quote-unquote official one-stops. However, that's a state-level Board of
Right.
Elections decision, and currently we don't qualify.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
And some of the materials in your packet address those issues.
Okay, we have a vote on the floor.
Councilman Moore?
No.
Councilwoman Robertson?
Yes?
Councilman Rice? Mayor Pro Tem Moy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Harrell?
Yes.
Hey, Mayor?
Motion carry 4-1. Before we go into the North Carolina Board of Directors election, I just wanted to put this out here to our council. Going back to Rule 20, if you would go and look at the School of Government, Coates Canon, North Carolina Government Law, filling a vacancy on the town council. If y'all want to get some good stuff, go and read that so that y'all can be able to share that with King and Terry. I'm just a little tad bit there for you. Yeah. Okay. All right, now we can move on. I'm sorry. I just wanted to put that out there.
Don, if it's all right with Mayor and Council, you want to take item 2?
I'll be glad to. Of course, we're getting ready for City Vision and the North Carolina League's business meeting, and that's where the Board of Directors will be named for this year. This year, they are going again with what they did last year by having a electronic voting. So what I need from you all is to nominate a delegate to serve for that purpose and vote for the town. Each town gets one vote. So if y'all could name someone to do that, it would be,
I would like to place Ms. Robertson name on it. You would accept?
Second.
Oh, got a motion on the floor and a second. I'm ready to go. But Mr. Moy and Mr. Moore.
Either one.
Legal has asked if we need a alternate. It's my opinion that because it's done electronically, you can do it. It's not that you have to go to the meeting, and that there would not be a need to have a alternate.
Ready, Mayor?
Call for the vote.
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilwoman Robertson?
Yes?
Councilman Rice? Mayor Pro Tem Moy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Harrell?
Yes.
Mayor?
Motion carried 5-0.
Excuse me, I was more occupied. Who was the motion and second on that?
Moy
Moy
first
and Moore.
and Moore second. Moy and Moore. Moy and Moy, M&M.
Thank you very much. Apologize for that.
Good, that's a good one.
Okay. Next up is support for Shriners' effort brought financial for the parade. Tony Moore.
Mr. Moore, go ahead.
I'd like for us to do a full page.
Full page.
They help our children. We need all the support we can give them.
I was going to just say, you all have at your seats the price for ads for the upcoming Shriners event on May 20th. We do have an email at your seats from Randy Hobbs, and he states that there'll be approximately 1,800 folks brought into Pitt County with the parade in Winterville, and then I think it's a soiree afterward. But a full page to support this event is $175, and we just ask that council make a motion and approve that.
Make a motion with a full-page ad, 175.
Got a motion made by Councilman Moore. Was it you, Ms. Robinson? Paul?
Mr. Rice.